Hello, PancakeSwap community holders and all the crypto community out there. I'm Fran, PancakeSwap's community manager, and I'm saying hello to you to this new Pancake Talks episode. I think it's really 18th or something like that since we started this uh, nice space to talk about market trends, talk with other projects that we partner with, telling just a safe space to chill about crypto, about the things we love. And sorry for my voice; it's a little bit early for me, so maybe I will be less assertive today. But as always, I'm not. I don't do this alone. I have my friend here. I have one of the PancakeSwap's ambassadors who is everywhere. I'm talking about Annie Seto. Say hi to Annie. Hey, Annie.
GM from Brussels this time. So yeah.
Oh, you could travel. I couldn't. So sad about it.
So
How you
another
doing,
pancake talk
Annie?
with you. Everything great here. Yeah. It's the
Yeah.
weather is a bit. It was raining a lot one of the days, so that's a bit. But apart of that, everything is going well here.
Yeah, I saw Vitalik running as a wizard through the rain, like a movie
Mhm.
star.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was.
I know you're enjoying Brussels. You are eating a lot of waffles, right?
Eating waffles, fries, a bit of beer as well. We need balance. And
Yeah.
yeah, everything everything going very well here. Many networking, many people, interesting people. In I,
Nice. Saying hi to DP Karim. I think if we have done 18 episodes, he have been here. I don't know 17 or something. Also saying hi to I don't know, I can spell this name, Mr. XK Kaduk. I don't know if I say it okay. Thanks for joining. And yeah, I think we have another super interesting episode today. This one will be around a project and a narrative that it's in everyone's lips these days. Um, I feel super touched by this narrative since it's a thing that I really appreciate. We can talk about it a lot. What's your without leaking too much? What's your opinion about the project and the narratives for today, Annie?
well, I think it's very nice to have this kind of protocol. We see from 1 year new protocols.
Oh, I don't know if I lost you. If it's my internet or if it's your mic.
Huge.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
I
huge.
lost you for a second.
Yes, sorry. That we have from 1 year more or less have this re-staking thing, and yes, there is a huge projects with this narrative that are behaving very well. There is competition in that space, but we will dig a little bit today about what is this re-staking thing and what Swell is building.
Oh, I think you forgot the part about not leaking too much about what was the guest today. Okay, you ruined it. Okay, I won't hire you to give surprises. Okay, I did it. Okay, I want to give a really warm welcome. Sorry. To Abby from Swell team, who is nicely here to tell a little bit more about this liquid staking and re-staking narrative. Hey Annie, how you doing? Abby, sorry.
GM everyone. Really great to be here and really excited to talk about Swell, what we're doing with restaking and yeah, what's coming up in the narrative for Swell.
Nice. Annie, shoot the first one.
Okay, let's go for some questions we have. First thing first, in case there is anyone in the entire crypto space ecosystem who doesn't know what is Swell and is in coma for 1 year or something and they don't know nothing about restaking, could you give us a brief summary of the protocol Swell? What are they doing? Who are you? And what department you are working? How do you get into crypto? And just like an introduction of your project and yourself.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, my name's Abby. I work across both research and strategy at Swell. To give an intro to Swell, we have to go quite a while back, as you said. Roughly, Swell's been a protocol for over a year now. Swell started in the liquid staking space, so pretty vanilla. We're looking at Ethereum staking. It's always good for new competitors to enter the space when it comes to securing and decentralizing a network, and Ethereum being one of the biggest networks. This was a key goal for us, and sort of how do we enter the staking space? How do we do our part to up the bar and improve the user experience, and also help decentralize and secure Ethereum along the way. So we were doing liquid staking for a bit of time, and then Eigenlayer came along and sort of totally shifted the entire narrative away from staking to restaking. Um, Suite, which was our LST, got accepted onto Eigenlayer as a form of collateral, and we saw a ton of growth as well as a protocol off that. And then, as we look deeper into restaking, understanding what exactly Eigenlayer was trying to do, we realized, we have to kind of go out and release our own LRT here as well, which is how our suite, just towards the start of this year, towards the end of January, we launched our own LRT called our suite. And yeah, so I guess now Swell has this liquid staking token, liquid restaking token, and the third thing that we have put together as a protocol that we're super excited about is what we're doing with our L2, which is where you can see at the top of the screen. We have 1.4 billion in pre-deposits for the L2, and what we're doing differently with the L2 that we're super excited about is we're using our suite, which is our LRT, as security for the L2 itself. And so with things like sequencing, finality, state verification, we're going to be plugging into AVSs, not only from Eigenlayer, but also restaking has sort of taken a new direction now with all these different restaking protocols like Symbiotic, Yield Nest, and etc. So ultimately, the goal for us is to use these restaking tokens to secure our own L2. And by doing this, we're able to build an L2 that scales and is decentralized in the in its infrastructure itself, which isn't the case nowadays with L2s like Arbitrum and Optimism. They have a centralized sequencer, and we really want to decentralize that and build the best L2 for DeFi as well along the way.
Nice. You mentioned a lot of things that I would love to cover in the following questions and in more questions too. Thanks, Abby, for the answer. I think it's if it's complex to me sometimes when I remember talking about this with Annie like 2 weeks ago, and he explained me a little bit of the things. I can recall that if it's complex for me that I've been in crypto for I can say many years. It's not too much, but for crypto it's like a life. So, how would you guide new users in starting to restake, in starting to at least understand the full picture of it?
Yeah, for sure. I would say depending on how new you are, maybe the best place to start with restaking is really at staking itself. So when with Ethereum is a proof of stake network. So we have validators who put up Ethereum as essentially collateral to secure the network. If they run the network as they're supposed to, they get a reward. These are the staking rewards, and if they make a mistake, they have downtime, or they do something malicious, they get slashed. Restaking is, I think it can feel quite complicated, but I think if you can break it down into these smaller components of what restaking is, it's just staking, and as the name suggests, doing it again. And so restaking is simply the same thing. So you're taking something like an LST, or with Symbiotic, which is a little bit different. It's Symbiotic is much more flexible. It accepts sort of any token, um, even though they're only accepting LSTs right now, and it's taking this token that you've put up and putting it up as collateral and securing more things. This is what AVSs are. Um, Essentially, an AVS is a piece of software that nodes being little computers around the world, will agree to run. And if they, just like normal staking, if they run it correctly, they get rewards from the AVS and also from the people paying for that service. And if they make a mistake, then they get slashed. And I sort of first came out with this concept, and I guess what's beautiful about restaking is that it's just taking the same concept and expanding it to AVSs, which for me at least allows Ethereum and what can be done inside the EVM to scale much further, to do things that simply can't be done inside the EVM. The EVM is essentially what all these little computers around the world run. And it has limitations. If a contract is too complex, the gas costs gets really high, so you have to take that into account. AVS is essentially use the EVM for consensus, but they can do much more. So, for example, you have ZK coprocessors, which are environments where you can prove things using zero knowledge proofs. Zero knowledge proofs are a whole other realm of complexity that even I'm still wrapping my head around. You have things like eOracle, which is another Oracle service, but ultimately it's just software that's being run by nodes. And if you can boil it down to that, then restaking, in my opinion, is something that you're already familiar with. It's just in a different format.
Thank you, Avi, for your explanations. And I have another question, digging a little bit more. Is about they are speaking here in some talks about the sequencer that in some occasions is a centralized sequencer, and they think maybe in the future they can move to decentralized sequencers. Can you explain a little bit what is this sequencer?
Yeah, for sure. So as a sequencer, as the name suggests, is essentially like when you have a blockchain, you need to sequence transactions on an L2. This is done by a centralized party. So when you go and you make a transaction on Arbitrum or Optimism, the Arbitrum Foundation essentially takes this transaction and they sequence it. This is inherently like a centralized process, and this doesn't mean that Arbitrum Optimism can steal your funds, but there's risks around things like MEV, because if Arbitrum Optimism are able to sequence their transactions, there's nothing that really stops them from sequencing those transactions in a way that extracts MEV. And also there's like the censorship angle where if they are able to sequence if they as a sequencer choose to not sequence a transaction, your transaction doesn't go through. And although there are ways to force a transaction through, if you go and actually look at how you have to force a transaction through, that process takes up to a day, which is reasonable because you don't want people just randomly forcing through transactions. But ultimately, centralization in general in crypto tends to be a bad thing, and it tends to be something that we as a space want to move away from, which is why decentralized sequencing solutions like Espresso and AltLayer have become possible through AVSs, and that's what we're going to do with the L2 that we're building. When it's technically feasible, we plan to have a decentralized sequencer, and this is what our LRT will secure. So right now we're using AltLayer's decentralized sequencing solution, and so when our L2 goes live, hopefully shortly after, we'll be able to get rid of the centralized sequencing component and switch it out for a decentralized sequencer, which should lead to an L2 that is just more robust. Because if you have a situation where the centralized sequencer goes down, this can mean like the entire network will stop working, which is not a great thing to have if you're trying to build financial instruments on top of an L2. You want something that's robust and is not going to have a single point of failure.
Nice. Thanks, Abby. I think we went super high level technical. I love Annie loves to talk these kind of things, but yeah, it's kind talking again that it's kind in everyone's lips. Why do you think this whole narrative becomes so popular? This cycle.
Yeah, sure. I think restaking in general is very good tech. I know Eigenlayer and these restaking protocols have a lot of hype, and hype is always something that you want to take with a grain of salt. When you're looking at the space. But we ultimately believe that restaking itself is a super great concept, and the tech behind it is really good. Being able to secure services with the same collateral enables you to have much lower costs of security when it comes to having an AVS, which greatly reduces the barrier for entry for an AVS. Before restaking, the standard way to go out and build a service in a decentralized manner was to essentially go and like launch your own blockchain. A great example of this is something like Celestia. And this is not saying that Celestia would have been better as an AVS, but I think one of the best comparisons is like Celestia versus EigenDA. EigenDA is an AVS. It's able to leverage the cost of security savings of being within Eigenlayer, and these cost of security savings occur because you have, let's say, one Ethereum that's being restaked between 10 different protocols, and so the amount of returns that ETH will demand from each protocol gets lower as you add in more protocols, because more people are able to contribute towards the rewards that capital declares. And so I think the biggest innovation of restaking in general is actually just reducing the barrier to entry for AVSs, which makes the space much more competitive. It brings better solutions to market that don't require the, let's say, infrastructure and spend to spin up your whole like a whole new blockchain for every service that you want to provide.
Thank you, Abby, for this very good understanding of the restaking. So about the liquid staking and liquid restaking market, is possible if you have any metrics that what is the size of the market, how are the Swell position in the actual market? What share of the market you have of this re-staking narrative? And yeah, give us some light about the actual market you are playing and how it's going. With there is many competitors. How it's going?
Yeah, sure. So the restaking market, I think, is very competitive. Um, in terms of market share, I would say it's a complicated one to look at because there is a lot of different participants in the space and in that participate in different ways. You have LST protocols where uh, Lido is technically the dominant protocol by quite a large margin. They hold the lion's share of the LST market, and so by that um, by that Lido is also a super big player in LST protocols. They hold a majority of the TVL on Symbiotic, and also I'm pretty sure majority of the TVL on Eigenlayer. In the LRT space, if we're just looking at Eigenlayer, R Suite, as you can see on the screen, has a $420 million dollar market cap, and I would say the rough restaking space last time I looked at it on Eigenlayer was around 10 billion. Between LRTs, that space is mostly dominated by EtherFi, then followed by Renzo, and then I think it's us in third, unless I'm missing someone in between. Uh, in terms of like dominance, I think everything that is being built on restaking right now is hasn't actually come into production yet. In terms of sure, Eigenlayer is live, AVS is alive, but I think we are yet to see the full extent of what AVSs can do. And this is actually a core reason why we launched the L2, is because these protocols have restaking protocols have so much TVL, but not much to actually secure. And so our way of trying to solve this problem, at least for our suite, was, hey, we have this 420 million of security. Let's use it to secure our own L2. And that's how the L2 came along. It's because, if you look at base and optimism, you can see like the amount of money that these sequences make. And in our opinion, by decentralizing that, we can drive that revenue back to our own LRT, which is a key reason why we did the L2, is because it allows us to have these decentralized L2 that ultimately feeds back in to the thing that's actually securing it, rather than some centralized labs entity like Arbitrum or Optimism.
Nice. Thanks, Abby. I think you mentioned this word a lot, so I would like to ask your opinion. Do you think the Ethereum network is secure today? And if you can give us a little bit of light about the risks, because of course we are living here. Life comes with risks. The risks associated with this narrative with the restaking.
Yeah, for sure. I think like the hot topic when it comes to Ethereum security is always Lido dominance. You have players like um, you know all the restaking protocols like us, DeFi and stuff, who are essentially entering the market, hopefully to try and bring down um, Lido's dominance. You have players like Rocket Pool who are there quite early on to sort of decentralize that process out of liquid staking. I think Ethereum itself has some while to go, but I think in comparison to a lot of other things in this world, I think Ethereum is doing quite well in terms of security and decentralization. Um, I think Lido is a problem to solve, but I think Lido as a DAO is quite responsible in terms of a DAO, and I think the reason that they have achieved the success that they have had in this market is not only were they a first mover, but they also just launched a good product, and so their problem is sort of comes from the success of their own of the quality of their product, and so it's not like Lido is maliciously taking market share. People are ultimately picking Lido because they feel it's the best solution. Swell's way of taking away market share from Lido is to try and provide a better product rather than just saying that Lido should have less market share. I think ultimately the market will always gravitate towards the best product, and we're trying to hopefully be that best product, and take away market share in a way that actually makes sense, instead of just saying have pitchforks at Lido just because they have so much dominance. Like they're ultimately there for a reason. It's because it's a great protocol, and a great product.
Thank you, Avi, for your answer. And I will continue a little bit with this risk because we have plenty of degens here in PancakeSwap, and maybe they have very cool ideas like having a re-staking derivative and put it like collateral and buy more re-staking derivative and put it like looping into the borrow and lending markets. And can you explain a little bit what is if there is a systemic risk for Ethereum, because it was some debate going on about it, like if there is any slashing risk, if that happens, how that will affect Ethereum, or this looping of borrow and lending with re-staking tokens, it can generate any bad debt or something. Can you give us some lighting here? Like, and also there is a risk of DPEG as well. Like it happens already with some protocols.
Sure. So I think there's multiple layers of risk at the Ethereum protocol level. I would say the risk, in my opinion, is quite low. Lido is almost double the size of I think more than double the size of Eigenlayer, and Lido is a fraction of the Ethereum staking market cap. So I don't think restaking at its current state has the potential to impact the security of Ethereum itself. In terms of the individual risks of LRTs, we do feel that there are risks. Whenever you take something liquid and you put it into DeFi, people are going to pick up this token that is liquid and use it to go into different DeFi instruments. They can do things like looping, as you said. Looping, I think, definitely has a risk. I think the market has not acclimated to the extra time that it takes to withdraw an LRT. If you look at a traditional LST, like let's just say Lido, right? The time to withdraw from Lido is roughly 3 to 5 days, but the time to withdraw from an LRT is that 3 to 5 days to withdraw from the beacon chain plus the 7 days that it takes to withdraw from the restaking protocol. And then there's also another delay that some people may not be aware of, but in the beacon chain you have this thing called the sweep, which is essentially as you withdraw, you have to the network has to go through every single validator and then withdraw them one by one. Because Eigenlayer is a pretty recent I guess innovation in the space, a lot of the LRT validators tend to be quite closely packed together. If you can imagine all the beacon chain validators as a line. There's some point in that line where a lot of the restaking validators exist. And the sweep essentially goes through that line and manually exits these validators. And this adds another delay because the validators are so concentrated. You can think of the sweep as pretty much having to go through the entire line to find the validators to process the LRT withdrawals. This adds extra time, and it is this sort of extra time from both the restaking protocol and the sweep, which ultimately, in my opinion, adds the most amount of risk to the liquidity of LRTs because in, let's just say, Lido, the arbitrage cycle is quite low. If the LST depegs, arbitragers are going to buy it up pretty quickly and then just go unstake, and you'll have fresh ETH back in 3 to 5 days. Whereas for an LRT, this can be anywhere from 10 days on the low end to all the way up to 30 days, if things don't line up at all, which adds a lot of risk and reduces the willingness for arbitragers to step in and defend the peg when you do have a selling event. And this has follow-on effects to things like leverage. We saw with Renzo what happened when they did their TG and they didn't have withdrawals. They had a bunch of liquidations all over the place, which ultimately led to their depeg. This is something that Swell is like very aware of, and it's something that we're risk mitigating in terms of bolstering our liquidity. That's why we're on this call. We're working with PancakeSwap to push up our liquidity as much as possible. And yeah, I think there's definitely risks around the liquidity of LRTs. And in general, I think including Swell, I think it's something the space needs to improve on a lot beyond the what people are used to with traditional LST liquidity. I would say LRT liquidity needs to go above and beyond due to these much longer withdrawal windows.
Thanks, Abby. Thanks a lot. Thanks for telling us the risks. But at the end of the day, I think one of the most important things is to know that besides the liquidity, no matter if you are maybe seeing the it's been depegged, you need to know that there is a stake ETH secure for you at some point, and you will be able to redeem. So you don't need to be a lot worried. Maybe it's not the end of the world if we see a depeg. We have seen depegs in the past, but you need to know that your ETH it's secure, and that's the main things to feel safe, right?
Yeah, exactly. Liquidity only really like the risks of liquidity only impact you if you're trying to exit through the market. If you're simply unstaking the LRT, I think the risks of you losing any money are greatly reduced.
Nice. Yes. I always love to think like that and try to be avoid of do those vision loops that Annie mentioned. I mean, it's super attractive, but when you start, you can never stop, and at the end, you have leverage a lot your positions, and it's really difficult to go back. So thank you for that. I have another not tricky, but I feel you like to share a lot of information. So I will like to know your opinion about it, because at the end it's your opinion. Sure, you mentioned AN layer some minutes ago. So why do you think that all this euphoria for farming points, do you think it has become a little bit dangerous?
I think points have a place in the ecosystem. I think there are aspects of points farming which are good and also aspects which are bad. I think the aspects of points farming which are good is that it allows the protocols to better direct their users towards the actions that are most valuable for the protocol, which ultimately will reward those users because they're going to be the ones receiving a token at the end. So you want to make sure that the capital that that they're risking in your protocol is at least being used in the best way possible. If they're going to risk it, the bad part of points campaigns is that I think when everyone is doing a points campaign, I think it can be quite exhaustive for users, and the payoff curve of a points campaign is essentially 0 all the way up until 1 point, which on the protocol side can lead to a liquidity crunch on the day on which you do your TG, because it's not sort of this continuous stream of tokens. And it can also lead to, I want to say, lower than expected returns for users because everyone's going to want to be exiting on the same day. And so the price that you have in mind when you're calculating the value of your points may not be the one you actually get when you try to exit, when you finally get your tokens. But I do feel that points campaigns are a net positive in terms of protocol tools to drive users that want exposure to their protocol to doing the thing that is most valuable for the protocol. This is Swell's been doing points for quite some time. Now, I think after Blur, we were the first protocol to start using points. And then it sort of it sort of caught on from there, and now points is sort of the norm in the space. Swell's been looking at ways to sort of improve the way that points are done. So we have some changes that are going to be coming out. But yeah, I can't speak to that too much right now, as we want it to be a nice little surprise. But yeah, we are definitely looking at the pros and cons of points campaigns and trying to find something that's going to improve it even further from how it's being done currently.
Thank you for your answer, Adi. I also believe the points are here to stay. The only thing is maybe some of these point campaigns, they are not very well aligned with the crypto philosophy, and we need to have a more deterministic way of explaining with more clarity what's going to happen. So the expectations as well are, at the level of the user. And yeah, I think we need to improve and make some improvements in these points and make it a better system. And let's see what Swell brings to the table. I know you have a campaign for farming points that is the pearls. So if you are interested on this topic, you can use the re-staking tokens and you can farm and everything to accumulate these points on Swell, and you will get pearls. And yes, enjoy the farming shares.
Oh, I see. There's a question from the community. If you would like to take it, maybe. I also think that it is more for your opinion than Swell's, but it says something like, "What's Swell's opinion about shield leverage platforms like Pendle? Helps to the ecosystem in some way?"
I think Pendle found a really good product market fit in terms of giving users leverage ways to get exposure to points in a way that is liquidation free. A lot of the ways that points multiples are achieved outside of this is through leverage, which tends to it can go wrong. You have a bad day in the market, things depeg, you get liquidated, and while you were just trying to farm points, you've now been liquidated on your assets, which sucks. So I do think Pendle is like in general, like this approach that they've taken to liquidation free points farming is quite interesting, and in my opinion, a really good use of their product. I think Pendle in general as a protocol is very interesting. I spend a lot of time on Pendle. Even before points, I was a pretty active user of Pendle, so I can only speak good things about their product. I think there's other products in the market that are also achieving similar goals. There's one that we're working with quite closely on the L2 called GammaSwap. They have a super interesting product. I think they're coming to mainnet soon, but they're on Arbitrum Live right now, and you can go there to leverage L2 points using perps, which is quite interesting, and gives you another way to leverage points. But yeah, to answer the question, I do think Pendle is like a net positive for the ecosystem, and I think they rode the restaking wave really well, and I think it took them to a much higher place as a protocol.
Thanks, Abby. I think I have a better picture about what restaking is right now. Annie, do you have any other question before we let him free?
No, nothing else from my side. Just to mention that I meet some members of the Swell team here in Brussels, and they give me a T-shirt, so I will be with some Swell swag here in Brussels. Thank you for that.
You lucky bastard.
And thank you, Abby, for being here and explaining us all these sometimes complex topics, but yeah, with that, I hope some community members, they get to know a little bit better what is all this about. And thank you for being here.
Awesome, guys. We really appreciate you guys having me here, and yeah, really glad to talk about Swell.
Thank you a lot, Abby, and thank you all the community members out there. We have more like 1,800 visualizations right now, and thanks also for your questions. Thanks for being here and for giving so much good vibes. And yeah, we will let Abby free for today, and let's gather in the next week on another new episode of Pancake Talks. Again, thank you all for being here, and see you next week. Thanks, Annie. Thanks, Abby. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Catch you guys. Bye-bye.